The injury report ahead of tomorrow's Week 3 matchup with the winless Baltimore Ravens has been updated, and to be honest with you, it is perfect. It is best case scenario considering what the Cowboys went through in Week 2, so I'll break that down and much more on this episode of Cowboys Digest. Welcome in, everybody, to Cowboys Digest. I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, and today we'll be breaking down the injury update that we received today. But before we get into the video, I want to let you know that around 85% of you watching these are not subscribed. We're almost at 500 subscribers. It'd be great to get to 600 by the end of the day, but let's not put a limit to it. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything, and you'll want to subscribe for daily Cowboys content. Took a day off yesterday, but I'm back today, and it's going to be a very busy weekend because the Cowboys are getting set to take on the Baltimore Ravens tomorrow at 4:25 Eastern time, and it should be a bloodbath by all accounts. You got the winless Baltimore Ravens, who got to be one of the hungriest teams heading into Week 3, and then you got the Cowboys, who just suffered back-to-back losses at home for the first time in a very long time, and not just losses, blowout losses. The playoff game against Green Bay, where Jordan Love just rolled into AT&T Stadium and embarrassed the Dallas Cowboys, as well as Aaron Jones, and then Alvin Kamara going for 4 touchdowns and just exposing that flawed run defense that the Cowboys have. But they are going to get some strength back on the defensive line, which we will get into right now, and the addition of Carlos Watkins as well. So Carlos Watkins is someone very familiar with the Cowboys roster. He's going to get in there and definitely give them a little bit of a jolt in the run stopping, and that's what they're going to need, because Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, that's about as scary as it gets in the backfield. But let's get straight into it here. There's good news regarding the Dallas Cowboys injury report heading into their pivotal Week 3 matchup against the Baltimore Ravens, and it's headlined by tight end Jake Ferguson and former first-round pick Mazi Smith, both having injury scares as of late. Ferguson suffered a mild MCL sprain in the regular season debut and victory over the Cleveland Browns that he initially thought might have been a torn ACL, but thankfully was not, and he was close to taking the field against the Saints in Week 2. Boy, could they have used him, because the passing game just did not look the same without their number 2 target in there. And I thought the Cowboys opted to rest him instead for the sake of precaution and longevity, which I like as a decision overall in Week 2. He returned to practice in a limited capacity on Wednesday and Thursday, but was a full participant yesterday, indicating he will be available to return and take on the Ravens. And this cannot be understated, the importance of Jake Ferguson in the passing game, in the blocking game. He was a Pro Bowler last year, and he was the number 2 target for Dak Prescott in that offense, which was humming all season long in the regular season. So he's going to be very important. He draws back into the lineup, and that changes a lot of things. That changes a lot of schemes, and it definitely shifts the way that the Cowboys are going to be looking to play. Now, the second injury update here is Jalen Brooks popped up on the injury report with an ankle injury, but practiced fully on Friday as well. Sign he'll likely not be ruled out, so that's nice, a little bit more depth at the wide receiver position. But this is where it gets interesting. The initial injury report was headlined this week by Trevon Diggs, who had a foot injury, maybe a little bit of load management going on over there. Ceedee Lamb as well, maybe just getting back up to speed after the holdout before the season started. But both have now practiced multiple days this week, and there is little to no indication they'll be absent on Sunday. So the secondary needs help, and taking Trevon Diggs out of it, that does not help. So it'll be nice to see him back in the lineup. And with owner and general manager Jerry Jones speaking confidently to that fact on Friday. So we can expect Trevon Diggs and Ceedee Lamb to get back in there. And the bottom paragraph here says it will be all hands on deck against Lamar Jackson and a Ravens defense that are desperate to avoid an 0-3 record. And Deron Bland notwithstanding, the Cowboys are as a whole right now as they could hope to be. So yeah, exactly. It sucks to not have Deron Bland, who set the record for most pick sixes in a season and was pretty much a shutdown corner all year long for the Cowboys. It sucks to not have him because the secondary is definitely reeling without him. But he's going to be back in a few weeks' time, hopefully, so he can get back and bolster an area of weakness right now that the Cowboys have. But Trevon Diggs is as essential as they come around the National Football League in terms of just ball hawking abilities and being able to manage the passing game. Now, he wasn't great. He was not great against the New Orleans Saints last week, but nobody was on that defense. So there's no blame to be put on anyone individually. Maybe Mike Zimmer, but I mean, the defense just did not show up, right? So we're hoping for a much better effort this Sunday against the Baltimore Ravens, because that's going to be a true test. I know they're 0-2, but they were one of the favorites. They were one of the darlings heading into the season in terms of Super Bowl contention, and the Dallas Cowboys were not. So they're going to be pretty ticked off. They're 0-2. They lost to the Chiefs, an amazing Thursday night football game to open up the football season. And then in week 2, everyone was expecting them to just pounce on the Las Vegas Raiders. And it did not happen. It did not happen. The Raiders took care of business against the Baltimore Ravens, and I was very impressed with their performance from minute 1 to minute 60. So good on the Raiders. I mean, you just beat a really quality football team. But the Ravens, they're no slouch. And as I mentioned earlier in the intro, their run game is going to be something to keep an eye on, which we take a look at here. The run game for the New Orleans Saints, they pretty much did whatever they wanted to the Dallas Cowboys last week. And 115 rush yards for Alvin Kamara, 3 TDs on the ground, 1 catching, and 190 yards on the ground in total for the New Orleans Saints. That is an astronomical number. And 6 touchdowns on their first 6 possessions. I mean, the defense just was not there whatsoever. And Kamara is a great back, don't get me wrong, very dynamic. But Derrick Henry possesses a different kind of strength and a different kind of skill set that could be an absolute nightmare for the Dallas Cowboys, especially with their smaller defensive front. It's nice to have Mazi Smith back in there, but he has not lived up to the hype of being a first-round pick whatsoever. He was great at Michigan, but he has just not been that same player with the Dallas Cowboys. I'm willing to give him time because he's only 23 years old, but the time is ticking now. Like, you are a starter on this defensive front every week. You got to be out there and you got to be making plays. Carlos Watkins is probably going to draw a pretty big assignment, and I expect DeMarvion Overshown to be the QB spy for Lamar Jackson. His speed at the linebacker position is something that the Dallas Cowboys don't really have much of, and he is one of the fastest players on their team. He's going to be hawking and keeping an eye on Lamar Jackson all game long, and that's going to be a big test in itself. After not playing too many snaps against the New Orleans Saints, Overshown is going to have to come in and really show what he's made of against one of the best rushing quarterbacks of all time, if not the best. It's going to be a great test. I can't wait for it tomorrow. It's the Fox game of the week, deservedly so, even though the teams have underperformed thus far this season. Ravens, Cowboys at AT&T Stadium. The whole world will be watching. So hopefully the Cowboys can move to 2-1 and extend that Ravens losing streak to 3 games to open up the regular season. But that'll wrap it up for this episode of Cowboys Digest. Thank you guys so much for making it this far. Really appreciate the support. We are so close to 500 subscribers. I have no doubt in my mind that we're going to hit that moniker after this video, but let's aim a little bit higher, because 85% of you watching these videos are not subscribed, and I want to see that number get down a little bit. Okay, so hit the subscribe button. It's free, doesn't cost you anything, and I'll see you guys all tomorrow, and we'll be breaking down the game. We'll be breaking down everything that was said by Mike McCarthy, by Jerry Jones, hopefully after a resounding Cowboys win. But until tomorrow, go Cowboys.